Hi and welcome back with another tutorial video. In this video, I will be showing you how I made this character from scratch. The idea is to make a dancer character and add some sci-fi elements to it. So let's jump right in. Add a sphere to your Blender project and move it to position. And also add a cube to your Blender scene and scale the cube to 1.8 meters. And this cube will serve as a scale reference for your character, so it's not too big or not too small. Now use the move brush to tweak your sphere a little bit and give it a similar shape to a human head. After that, press R to change the density of your mesh and press Ctrl R to add actual geometry onto the model. Now use clay builder brush to remove some volumes from the jawline and pronounce it a bit more. And also use the move brush to give more shape to the chin. And doing this will also give you an idea of where to draw the mask and extrude out the neck. For the chest part, you can also draw another mask and extrude it out and use clay builder brush to add some volume. Draw some landmarks like the sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscles because it will give you an idea to where to refine the form a bit more. Also, draw another mask and extrude out the legs. Look at it from the side and tweak the shape a little bit. Also add some volume to the crotch area using clay builder brush. Some more landmarks on the leg area because it will give you an idea of where to refine the forms. Also, the head size is a bit big right now, so let's scale it down by drawing a mask and refine the clavicle a bit more. Also, I'm adding some volume to the pectoralis muscles as well. And for the arms, let's draw a mask and extrude it out and add some volumes to different muscles of the arms. Arms are not in a neutral pose right now, so draw another mask and rotate arms a little bit. Also pronounce the clavicle and the connection point of the deltoid a bit more. For the pectoralis muscles and the biceps muscles, use use draw sharp brush to refine it a bit more. Now it's time to create the shirt, so to draw another mask and extract it out and use clay builder brush to add some volume to the hood of the jacket. For another mask and tweak the shape of the hood, and you can see that the jacket looks really skin tight for now, so use your clay with the brush to add some volumes to it and add some variations to it. Let's increase the density of polygons on the jacket and sculpt some more close folds on top of it. For this type of jacket, I divide the folds into XYZ shapes and sculpt it accordingly. Let's extract the top trouser mesh by drawing a mask and extracting it out and adding some volumes using the clay builder brush. Sometimes I will use clay builder brush to sculpt clothes folds, and sometimes I will use the standard brush. And right now, sculpt is at a pretty early stage, and you can see me that I'm adding and removing volume pretty aggressively. For the hands, I will do the same thing. I will draw a mask and extrude it out. And for the fingers, I will also do it in a similar way. And I will strip the rest of the fingers and work on a single finger at a time because it's easier to refine and work on it. And I will duplicate different copies of it and combine it with the hand and remesh it. In order to create the helmet mesh, let's draw another mask and extract it and use our scrape brush to create some harsh corners onto the mesh, and I will use my draw sharp brush to create some nice cavities on top of it. Sculpting is pretty good. will just remesh each and every part and add multi-resolution modifier, or I will also use shrink wrap on some pieces to get the high details back, and you can see right now. And once the shoes are at a stage where I've added multi-resolution modifier, it is time to just sculpt some really finer details and push the poly count to a really high density. Usually when you're looking at the concept art, it's not that clear, so you have some different references on your monitor and you do different ideation based on what you think. And right now I'm doing the same thing. I'm just sculpting some fine details and thinking about how I can add some more variation or more details and do some different panel cuttings and see how that works for me. Now I'm also refining each and every shapes over and over again. You can see me go on a shape over and over again. Like I use brush to cut the crease, then I will smooth it, and then I will go over on top of it again. And sometimes I use clay builder brush to refine it a bit more and give it a bit more volume. Now it's time to add some glowing lights on top of the mesh. So I will be using a Bezier curve for that. I added a curve with position, tweak the vertices a little bit, and there we have a glowing light. Now that the primary proportions of the jacket is done, it's time for me to refine it. And in order to refine it, I will need more resolution to it. And remesh gets really slow when you move close to 800 or 900 polygons. And it's better to just extract it, remesh it, and add multi-resolution modifier on top of it. And you can see that you see me doing that. Added a multi-resolution modifier and then add a shrink wrap modifier, and you can see that the shrink wrap is giving me a lot of errors right now. So I'm using my draw brush to just move the both meshes really close together so that there are literally no errors when I shrink wrap and project details. And after projecting all those details back, I'm thinking of adding some really fine details. You can see that I have made my brush size really small, and I'm also adding like really small sculpted folds. And if I have added some forms previously, I'm also refining those and bringing a bit more variation. It's basically like nudging your mesh a little bit and bringing more variation to it. And right now I decided to add some more details to the sleeves, and I'm using my draw brush to add some linear volumes and using my draw sharp brush to cut back into it. And once all of these linear forms are good, I will use my draw brush to just tweak it a little bit more again. And you can see that right now I'm working on the jacket part of mesh, and I'm using draw sharp brush to refine all those cuts that I have added. I forgot to add some force to the back of the mesh, so I'm doing that right now. You can see right now I'm again refining all those forms which I have projected after adding the multi-resolution modifier because they got a bit blurry. And you can see that I'm like really fine-tuning all those details, like sculpting the really tiny force or the tiny variation in your jacket. I forgot to add the connection point between the hoodie and the jacket, and it should have been added at the primary when I was refining the primary forms, but I'm adding it right now using clay builder brush. Right now the hoodie looks pretty flat to me, so I'm using my draw brush to add some more bigger folds on top of it. Mesh the zipper mesh and use your move brush to tweak it a little bit so there aren't any gaps between the zipper mesh and the jacket. It's time to create some small zipper pieces that we are going to duplicate over time. So in order to do that, just add a cube into the scene, remove the other half of the cube, add some edges in the center and bevel those, and add the mirror modifier, and then after that add an array modifier and tweak the settings of an array a little bit. After that, duplicate the edge from a zipper mesh and convert it into a curve, and use a curve modifier to add the zipper mesh or confirm the zipper mesh on top of the zipper mesh we already created near the jacket. I'm modeling another simple shape, and the process is the same as I did the last zipper mesh. I just add a cube, add some edges, bevel those edges, and right now I extracted some faces from the center of it, and I moved the edges a bit downward. I'm also adding a solidify modifier and adding crease here and there. I'm also beveling it when the crease doesn't suit me, and I also took another plane, add a mirror modifier, insert the faces, and tweak the vertices a little bit, and bevel the corners. And after that, I will add a solidify modifier to just add some thickness to it. Now the zipper mesh is done, so let's move it to position and tweak it a little bit. Now let's add some small glowing lights on the jacket as well. I'm using the same thing as I used on the shoes. And instead of using the Bezier curve, I'm using a path tool because it will give me more smoother corners, although I have to duplicate a lot of vertices there. And also add some glowing lights on the edges of the jacket and mirror them, and press F to fill holes between multiple vertices of it. Now it's time to refine the trouser mesh, and I'm drawing in another mask, and I will extract it and then remesh it and add a multi-resolution modifier and a shrink wrap modifier to project all the details back onto it. And in this way I can subdivide it a bit more and cut some finer details on top of it. And you can see that I'm just refining all the volumes again and again, and this time I'm also breaking the symmetry and sculpting some asymmetrical folds because symmetrical folds for looking weird in the center of the mesh. Let's add some more glowing lights to the trouser as well, and you can see me doing the same thing again here as well. It's just extruding the curve over and over again. I also want some glowing lights on the knee pads, so I'm just duplicating an edge and converting it into a curve and then adding some bit more depth to it. It's time to refine the knees as well, so I'm just drawing another mask and extracting it and remeshing it using quad remesher and add a multi-resolution modifier to add some more subdivisions to it. And the neck was pretty flat at the time, so I'm just adding a bit more shape. And this time I'm sculpting a hard surface shape, but I didn't like it, this hard surface shape, so I will just smooth it again because it wasn't looking really good with the aesthetic of the character. Also add some sharp creases or cavities by using the draw sharp brush. And also let's just remesh it as multi-resolution modifier and project all those details back because I wasn't having enough resolution to sculpt some really fine details like I'm doing right now. So I'm not doing everything in a single stroke. You will see me refining the stroke again and again by using the same brush and using the same movement again and again, and it will just give a bit more detail or a bit more depth to your cavities. Now it's time to refine our helmet a little more. You can see me, I want to have some more control on the helmet, so I'm drawing a mask and extracting it out, and I'm doing that for both of these pieces, and I'm making them separate so I have some more control. And you will see me doing a bit different here on the helmet mesh because previously I've been using just quarter measure to just have some clean topology, but this time this is hard surface model, so I need some really good and clean topology, and you can see me doing that by using retopo flow and adding edges on the corners or on the hard edges of the model. And you can also see me using the relax brush to even out the density of the mesh. And the flow is not good here, so I removed some faces and connected bleaching the faces together, and after that I'm using my relax brush to smooth it out a little bit, and after that I'm adding some crease using the crease tool. And sometimes I don't like the crease and I will tweak the crease value a little bit. For the visor mesh, instead of choosing the top of flow to generate clean mesh, I think it was easier to just add to use the quad remesher. Let's add another edge and move it out to close the gap between the visor and the helmet. Now I've moved on the glove mesh, and I'm also trying to add a bit more cavities on the glove. And you can see that I'm using draw sharp brush to just cut cavities and then use my clay builder brush to add some volumes, because small cavities when using a single brush won't look that good. It's always important to add some volumes on top of it, and you can see me doing that for the rest of the knuckles on the fingers and the thumb as well, and it's just the same process. And I also like to add some finer panel cuttings on top of the glove to give it a kind of a sci-fi or edgy look to it. And since this is a glove, I also need to add some cloth folds on top of it, and you can see me doing that right now. And I'm also thinking about where the seams of the gloves are, and I'm using them draw sharp brush to just accentuate all those details. And after the seams are finalized, I will use my draw brush to add some more folds to it, add some more variation to the glove. As you can see me doing that, sometimes I do sculpt small folds, sometimes I use a bigger brush to sculpt some bigger details. And since because this is a finger mesh, and I'm just adding a smaller variation, I'm just drawing some smaller folds again and again and just smoothing those out, because they look kind of harsh right now. So I will just draw a fold and smooth it out later on. Now that our skirt is complete, it's time to just create high poly and low poly models. And for that, I'm just duplicating the collection and adding underscore high on the high poly models and underscore low with the low poly models. After the renaming is done and our meshes have been categorized and with underscore high for the high poly meshes and underscore low for the low poly meshes, it's time to look at each and individual meshes and remove the subdivision modifiers or the multi-resolution modifier from it. And so that in order to get a low poly mesh, just not renaming it, in order to actually get a low poly mesh for some meshes like the jacket where I have moved it during the sculpt stage, I'm applying multi-resolution modifier on a first subdivision level, and then I'm adding some multi-resolution modifier again and unsubdivide it, and then apply it in order to, instead of just applying base, because it will give some weird result. Now moving on to UVs. For the UVs, I just select all my meshes and do a Smart UV project for the first time, because I want to turn on live unwrap, so that whenever I just mark a seam, it will just unwrap right there and then. Doing UVs is pretty simple. You just have to think about like flattening a 3D surface on top of a 2D plane. Just think of it like a butcher skinning an animal and laying that skin flat on a table. So in terms of the butcher example, where does the butcher place cuts on the skin in order to lay flat on the table, in order for it to work on it? So he will add mostly cut near the legs, near his under his belly, and later on the skin will unwrap pretty smoothly, pretty become flat and unwrap pretty smoothly. And in terms of butcher example, you can see me doing the same thing on the glove. For example, if you have to unskin a hand, you can do the same thing. Just add cuts on the edges of the model where you think it has more compression, and you can just add the seam and click unwrap, and it will be done. And once all the UVs has been done, I'm using my UV pack master 3 to just pack all those different islands together. And after the UVs, I'm grouping my meshes into two materials. For example, I will add a single material on my jacket mesh, and I will, for the rest of my meshes, I will categorize into another material. And based on the materials, I will pack them together by using impact method 3, and you can see the heuristic is on, so it will give me pretty good results. Once the UVs are done, it's time to export our high poly and low poly meshes. And I will name underscore high at the end of high poly meshes and underscore low at the low poly meshes. It's not important to just to rename the FPX. It's just for me to get a better idea of what models do I have, what meshes do I have. I'm also changing the categorization based on by mesh name and checking it in the high poly parameters so that the grouping is working correctly. After that, I will just do a quick bake and see how the results are. You can see that right now it's baking, and right now I haven't changed the super sampling method or haven't baking at a higher resolution. And I'm checking for artifacts whether are any artifacts in the bake, and you can see me increasing the resolution a little bit and setting the super increasing the super sampling method, and I will just time lapse through the whole baking process. And right now I'm just tweaking my settings for in order to paint. You can see me changing the panorama, changing the environment rotation to camera, setting the field of view to 25 because that's what I use in Blender. I'm also changing the anisotropic filtering to really high, and I'm also changing the reflection settings to high as well because it will give me a better overall a better view of the project. I also removed the AO intensity because I like to add my AO to the base color. Right now, I just make groups for the different materials I will be creating in Substance Painter and adding a single fill layers. And now I'm starting with the jacket mesh, and you can see me add a simple pattern, spacer mesh pattern that comes with Substance by default. And I'm also changing the color of it. I will also add a levels node on a reference channel because I want to make this fabric look a bit more shiny. Now it's time to add some more color variation onto your jacket. So I'm doing that. I added a new layer and using a mask filter node to add add some big variations onto this layer. And then I will also stack some different grunges on top of it. And you can see that for the mask builder legacy, I'm tweaking different parameters, changing the scale of the grunge, tweaking whether the mask intensity based on the AO and the curvature and all that stuff. And right now I'm looking at different grunges. For the first few grunges, I will look at the overall variation, the bigger variation, and I will add those. And now I want to add some really small punchy details on top of my mesh. So you can see me looking for a really dark grunges right now, and I'm adding those. And you can see me try different blending modes to bring more variation. So this is just a my first color variation layer, and you can see that I've also added some leaks and other details because variation can come from any type of interaction by smudging hands, by damaging the cloth and all type of stuff. So you can try different grunges, and you can see me I have added another gradient node in the fill layer. And because the mask is really complex, I'm using the gradient node to sample different colors based on the mask intensity. And right now I'm thinking of adding some really small finer folds on top of it. So you can see me add a medium fold procedural and dragging it onto the fill layer. This medium fold generator comes with Substance by default, but I don't want the folds to be appearing on the whole mesh, like appearing everywhere. So you can see me adding some fill and some curvature generator on and setting the blend modes to multiply so that the folds only appear at specific parts of the model. Now that the basic material of a jacket is done, I want to see how it looks in Blender and set up lighting a little bit. And you can see me exporting all the maps. If you have no triangular enabled, you can just press Ctrl Shift T and select all the maps, and then they will be plugged directly into your shader. And also added an environment map and setting up a backdrop. I'm also adding a new material for the backdrop and giving it a darker color. Let's move back to Substance Painter and add another fill layer and rename it to damages. And right now, because I'm adding damages and this is a clean piece of cloth, I'm looking at white, really dark grunges where we have a little bit of white so that the damages are not all over the place. I've also added a discoloration layer, and discoloration will be added on the curvature of the jacket model. And you can see me checking it again and again in Blender over and over again. And you can see me right now, I'm adding some darker dirt in the cavities, and you can see me adding those by using different generators. And I'm also checking whenever I do some little bit of changes in the substance, I check it in Blender. And you can see that right now I've made it a backdrop to a bit darker color to give it a bit more mood to it. And I'm also adding some area lights to accentuate the details. The environment was pretty bright, so I toned it down a little bit, and you can see me doing that right now. Now I moved back to Substance Painter again, and you can see me just going back and tweaking all the sliders and see what works for me. I'm checking the renders again and again because it gives me a bit of different view on how my material is looking in Blender. And after looking at my renders in Blender, it gives me a clear view of what to tweak in Substance Painter. So that's why I'm checking it again and again, then go back to Substance Painter and tweak all those details, then export it again and look at it in Blender. So right now, I just want a leather material on part of the jacket, and I'm not making it from the scratch like I did the jacket material. So I took the calf grain material that ships with Substance Painter, and I'm painting it out on top of the jacket. I exported it again to Blender and see how that looks. I have also edited the camera. The compositing view was looking pretty empty right now, so I'm adding a glare node and see how that looks in my final render. And I also changed it to fog glow, tweaking with the size and the threshold values of it. I'm also tweaking the emission intensity and taking a render again and see how much emission do I need. And right now I'm working on the trouser material, and for that I just use a cotton jersey material and plug it directly on top of it. And you can see that this is for the weave pattern of the model. I'm tweaking different parameters and see how it looks to me. And I'm also copying layers from my jacket model because the damage, the dirt, and all that stuff will be pretty similar to what I did on the jacket model. And in order to just reuse it, I'm just doing copy pasting and tweaking all the parameters. Once some of my materials like the jacket and the trouser mesh are created, I want to be like copying pasting my folders into another material. It's better to just instance them across different material sets, and you can see that right now I'm doing all that stuff. I'm just instancing it and creating a mask onto another material, and you can see me exporting it again and checking it out in Blender and see how that looks. Now it's time to work on the visor material, and for this type of material there is really a lot of subtle details in the roughness channel of it, and you can see me doing that same stuff right now. And I've also added uh, another layer, and this time I'm adding a bit of grunge, a bit of dirt, uh, along the edges of the visor, and you can see me doing that. I don't want any kind of variation in the center, so I will add a curvature node and multiply it so that the crunch is only on the edges and not in the central part of the visor where I don't want any kind of grunge or dirt color. Once the dirt color has been added along the edges, along the cavities, it's time to add smaller damages or scratches on top of the visor. And you can see that I really don't want the damages which are all over the places, so I'm tweaking different sliders, bringing more contrast to the visor and making sure the details are really small enough so that they are not visible from a distance, but when you do a close-up you can see all their details. Now it's time to work on the plastic part of the helmet, and for that I'm just taking a plastic material from substance and slapping it on top of it. And after that I will just copy and paste some of the layers that I created for the visor mesh, because they have some really good fine details, and paste it into my plastic material folder. After that, I finalized the texturing and took some beautiful renders of it in Blender. And the real-time footage of this video will be available on my Patreon. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.